How are the Republicans doing at this point? How's it going for Trump?
In the same way we had some interesting Democratic numbers, we have some interesting Trump numbers to talk about here. So let's take a look and then we'll react.
The last day and change has been the worst day of polling for Donald Trump during his entire second term in office. What am I talking about here? Take a look at Trump's net approval rating. CNN, you see it on this side of the screen, -5. Gallup, -6. Ipsos, -7. Quinnipiac, -4. Negative, 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 underwater, 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 underwater. These 4 polls, all of them tell a consistent story, and that is Trump is on the negative side of the ledger. His net approval is negative. He is underwater like the Little Mermaid.
All right. What are the changes since the beginning of his term?
Oh,
January.
Right. All right. So we don't have a CNN poll to compare, but we do have the other 3 pollsters that we can look at. Trump's net approval rating, the change since January. Look at this. Gallup, down 5 points. Quinnipiac, down 7 points. Ipsos, down 13 points. They polled right at the beginning of his presidency, so not a big surprise that shows the worst change for Donald Trump. But the bottom line is this. Across the 4 new polls that we have, all of them have Trump in net negative approval rating, and the 3 in which we have a trend line, we see Donald Trump heading in the wrong direction, swimming upstream, you might say.
What is driving this? Like, what is making people so upset?
Yeah, you know, one of Donald Trump's great strengths during his first term, one of Donald Trump's great strengths during the 2024 campaign was the economy, the idea that Donald Trump could fix the economy. This was one of Donald Trump's great strengths. Now it's one of his great weaknesses. What am I talking about? Trump's net approval rating. You go back to his first term, February 2017, Ipsos, he was at +16 points on his net approval. Quinnipiac, +6. Look at where he is now in Ipsos. He's 8 points underwater on the economy. Quinnipiac, 4 points under on the economy. I honestly never thought I'd see the day in which Donald Trump would be polling so poor on the economy, but that day is here. As I said last week, inflation ate the Joe Biden presidency alive, and right now it is very much the case that Donald Trump is in danger of inflation eating his presidency alive because his net approval ratings on the economy are underwater.
So my theory is a little different than him.
Okay.
I don't think it's just inflation. I also think it's everything around Doge, all of these illegal cuts, all of the... There was one person did the calculations and said it could be as many as 250,000 jobs that were just casually axed illegally by Elon Musk. Like, that has real consequences. Because either, you know, you lose your job or somebody you know loses their job. Like, this is going to have ripple effects throughout the economy.
Yeah.
So at the total shutdown of U.S. aid, for example, I mean, there are downsides that the HIV medicine not getting to, you know, kids overseas and the NIH cuts that are happening
the
here.
Farm products that, I mean, you know, agricultural products that aren't being purchased to be sent for the, you know, the food aid program.
Yeah, explain that for people, exactly what happened there, because tell them how it impacts our farmers when people think it's like, oh no, we're only axing foreign aid. Like, explain that for them.
Yeah, so USAID has a program where they buy up a lot of, you know, crops from U.S. farmers, and then they use that to ship around the world to combat hunger in various places that are suffering from famine or food insecurity or whatever. And so when they just axed USAID altogether, some of the stuff had already been purchased was just sitting there rotting in ports. But it also means, yeah, it's a big question mark whether this program continues at all, which obviously devastating for people who are starving and suffering through famines around the world, but also has a direct impact on farmers here in the U.S. So you had a few individuals, you know, from Iowa and other farm states that were like, we got to do something about this. Like, this is a real problem in terms of creating markets for our farm products. And so, you know, I don't know if did you see the Jesse Waters commentary about... So,
he's like, wait, I know somebody who's getting impacted negatively. They're a veteran. What the hell?
Yeah, and this is one thing that people don't realize that we actually were just learning. DEI programs oftentimes
help veterans.
Like, one of the groups that they're set up to help and promote and get, you know, jobs after they're coming out of the service, et cetera. Veterans. Some, like 30% of the federal government workforce are veterans. So whatever your internet-brained caricature of a government bureaucrat is, that's not reality. In reality, the federal government is chock full of people that you would find to be very sympathetic. Even Jesse Waters would find to be, you know, very sympathetic and worthy of a job and, you know, perfectly good person to have helping out at the Pentagon or helping out with Veterans Affairs or whatever it is. So, yeah, I agree with you that I think there's also just a sense of chaos, of like, you're focused on all this weird, like, Gulf of America, like, I didn't ask for that, all this Greenland,
Right.
what is Canada, you're going to war with Canada now, what is even happening with this? This is not what I wanted. This is not what I voted for. And they'll claim otherwise. They'll go, oh, no, people voted for this, like, insane government handover to Elon Musk, which seems preposterous to me. But Trump made a concerted effort in the campaign to come off as, like, reasonable and normal so that people would feel like, oh, he's not going to do all this Project 2025
to be
crazy
clear,
stuff.
You're referring to the podcast strategy where he tried to, like, shoot the shit with these podcast
That
bros.
was the whole reason that he went on all those, like, bro-y podcasts, was for people to get this feel of, like, oh,
Down to
he's
earth.
just kind of normal and he's just able to hang out with these dudes, and all these Democrats and liberals are losing their mind. He's not a fascist. He's just, like, going to come in and try to make the business climate better or whatever, and I'll get a little more money back on my taxes. Maybe prices will go down. They were not down for this insane revolution that even I, as someone who was watching closely and was concerned about Elon Musk and whatever, like, I could not have anticipated how extraordinary and how, like, radical this initial program has been. So I also think there's a real reaction against that, much of which has fallen on Elon's shoulders, but also, of course, is going to reverberate in negative sentiment against Trump. And, and that's with them thus far being kind of lucky that there hasn't been some just total catastrophe that directly links to them that, really has direct, immediate impact on a lot of people's lives.
So a couple things. The IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, they had their spending halted by Trump. And that also was crucial for a lot of farmers. A lot of farmers made upgrades to their farm and fronted the money knowing, hey, I'm going to get made whole on the back end by this program. Trump halted that.
That's right.
So there were some literal farmers who voted for Trump who are, like, posting on TikTok, like, I'm going to lose my farm now. I'm going to lose my farm now. You also have the NIH funding cuts, which that destroys the state of Alabama, for example. So many of the jobs at the big university there are for that. I mean, they're literally cutting 60 or 70% from the funds that they get, which means it's going to decimate cancer research for children and all these other things. And so many jobs are going to go away as a result of that. And you also have, they killed the anti-scam police, the CFPB. Guys, this is an agency which returned money to 200 million that's the majority of Americans had a positive interaction with this government agency. Over $20 billion returned. You can't just kill that and think, like, nobody's going to notice, right? The Department of Education, they're going after that. I think just intuitively when people hear, like, wait, they're going after what? The Department of Education? That feels like, really? That's what you're going to do? And then also, you have to talk about Elon's self-dealing. I mean, this stuff is in the news every day now, and it's front and center. The fact of the matter is, Elon is getting more subsidies for SpaceX and for his companies. At the same time, he's, for example, cutting NASA, a direct competitor to SpaceX. As you point out, you have, like, over a dozen government agencies that were investigating Elon Musk for wrongdoing, and he's killing those government agencies.
Yeah.
He's getting $400 million more to make armored Teslas as he's cutting child cancer research. Like, you can't, there's only so much spin you could do on that, right? It reminds me of what they said about Biden's horrible debate performance. CNN afterwards was like, there's only so much spin we can do. That's how I feel about this too, is like, you could piss on people all you want. If you tell them it's raining, they're going to be like, I think that's piss, dog. It kind of smells like piss.
Yeah.
Right? And so, I mean, this is why I think the numbers are going to absolutely continue to crater. I said this before, but I would be shocked if at some point his numbers didn't get to George W. Bush territory at the end, 30% or lower, because this isn't even fully the chickens coming home to roost. I mean, they're literally trying to hide the bird flu pandemic. They stopped the CDC from communicating with the World Health Organization. They froze communications at the CDC. We are totally reliant now on the state health agencies, and they can only do so much. They only have a capacity to do so much. He's trying, his plan is, if I shove my head in the sand and don't tell people about the bird flu pandemic, then it's whatever. It's not going to be a big deal. We already have hospitals that are overrun and overloaded in Ohio and elsewhere with influenza A and other illnesses. And if bird flu makes that jump to humans, like, bro, we're looking at apocalyptic type scenarios. So these numbers, I mean, it's always fake at the beginning for presidents because they always have, like, a above water approval rating at the very beginning because people give them a chance.
Yeah.
But to make the comparison for you, Biden's first time in office, he had a plus 17 approval rating.
Yeah.
Trump's was plus 4. So it was already not starting off very high, and they're acting like they had this FDR-style mandate or this Ronald Reagan-style mandate. And it's like, bro, you don't. Not even close. And you're burning through this political capital at a record clip, and your numbers are already cratering. And I didn't even bring these up, but have you seen the new numbers on Elon Musk?
No.
Oh, my God. People hate this motherfucker now. They hate, they hate him. They hate him. It's incredible. I was just looking at him earlier.
However much they hate him, it's not enough.
That's exactly right. No, that's exactly right. But like even Republican voters are like, I don't know about this guy. I don't know about.
Well, that is the thing. Is like, okay, in the abstract, I'm sure there are a lot of people. Oh, government efficiency, cutting the waste, fine.
That's not what it is. Yeah.
It's so obvious that's not what it is. They're doing a terrible job making stuff up and getting caught even by like Fox News.
Daily basis.
This isn't really true. And then I think there is a just knee-jerk revulsion to the idea of the richest man on the planet running the whole government.
Yeah.
I think that is a fundamentally anti-American like thing to happen that people are repulsed by, whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, an independent. And the more that people see the self-dealing, the SpaceX engineers now are at the FAA. Oh, guess what? The FAA was investigating SpaceX over one of their launches that went wrong and the rocket came apart, and they had to divert a dozen different commercial airplanes to avoid the wreckage of this thing. There was an ongoing investigation about, I'm sure he's going to really be hit hard by the FAA now that you've got SpaceX people that are there in the building and the Doge people in the building and whatever. Like, it's so obvious to people. And like I said before, that's before you have some sort of major catastrophe that is laid at their feet, like another airplane crash.
There's been 9 of them.
Right. I know, but
and they're cutting
the first
FAA
one was
officials.
really early on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because of the way they've gone about this, almost anything that happens really can be very safely laid at their feet. And so whether it's that, whether it's Trump wants to get rid of FEMA. So we're going to have more climate-fueled natural disasters. Think of the way that Katrina impacted George W. Bush and the failed response to Katrina. Like, that's what you're setting yourself up for. We know over the course of these next several years, just because of the way that the world throws things, there are going to be catastrophes. And because of the way that they've stripped the federal government down to the bones and gotten rid of so many key people and key programs, it's courting disaster. It's courting disaster, and people are going to get hurt.
The fact that they're continuously cutting more flight safety officials in multiple rounds, as now we've had 9 plane accidents, that tells you everything you need to know. That tells you everything you need to know. That they're doing the approach, like, you know how after every mass shooting, it's like thoughts and prayers, but we ain't going to do shit. Right now, they do that with every problem. And if anything, they do policies to make it objectively worse. And I think the public caught on. All right, guys, you are not going to want to miss the rest of this interview. Sign up below on Substack. Greg Palast lays out for us Trump's sinister plan. Had the outcome of the 2024 race been different, he gives all the details in what went down. It's just a phenomenal interview, tremendous amount of evidence presented about what really happened in the 2024 election. You're not going to want to miss the rest of it. Sign up below.